Hi, I'm Myochi.
And I am Renee, and we are the 40 Spot. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If this is your first time, we're glad that you're here. If this is your repeat listener, watcher, we thank you for coming in again to join with us. And here at the 40 Spot, we talk about the highs and the lows and everything in between of being 40. So please like, comment, subscribe, follow us, tell a friend, tell a loved one, tell a coworker, repost us, rate us wherever you get your podcast at the 40 spot, 40, the number 40. Email us at the 40 spot at gmail.com. So, how you doing, girl?
I am doing good, girl. But today we are talking about Black women are not pilgrims. Stop asking them, us, to settle, which basically means this idea that Black women, if you have a list, get rid of it. Whoever want to come and scoop you up, just say yes.
Oh
That's what we're
no.
going to be talking about today. But first, we're going to get into our Why We're Out segment. This is where we discuss news, entertainment, and personal experiences that have occurred since our last show.
Yes. So we're gonna start back. A lot of people don't know, and it's to say every time you listen, you're gonna learn something new about us. I love wrestling. I have been watching wrestling since as far back as I can remember. Um, so Dwayne Johnson, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, he is coming back to WWE. SmackDown, he is the people's champion. Can you smell what The Rock
Can
is
you smell
cooking?
love?
Yeah, so like I remember when he first started, he had like a high top fade with these Elvis Presley sideburns and stuff. He was very, very animated and everything. So it is good. It's been 4 years. So he's supposed to be there for SmackDown, which SmackDown and when they have WrestleMania and different things like that for people who don't know, those are kind of like championship wrestling matches and stuff. So and I guess he has had a longevity with them. Like I said, I've been watching them since I was a little girl, so I seen where they brought back, um, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Ric Flair and all of these people. So it's like, yeah, it's time for you to come back.
You
So
know,
go
I
ahead.
think it was a couple of nights ago because he fought Austin Theory. I have no idea who that is. I was not a wrestling fan. My cousins love wrestling. Of course, they were boys, so they wrestled all the time and they were watching. I'd be like, this is so fake. Like, I always was like, this is so fake. I couldn't get with just the entertainment part. Like, come on, give me a Barbie show or like some Care Bears. I'm all in it. Garfield. Come on. Because it came on Saturdays, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, yes.
And yeah,
Saturday nights.
I wasn't really into it, but which I do find interesting is that the writer strike is going on.
Mhm.
So I'm curious if he was like, oh, well, here's another avenue to make money because although he's an actor, the writer strike not happening is stopping a lot of production.
Yep.
So I think that's interesting. But like you said, like people loved him. Like I didn't listen, I didn't watch for real. Only if my cousins was watching, but I was like in another room. Um, but I do. Did you? Can you smell what the rock is cooking?
Girl, let me tell you, like I will be watching with my kids, and it was like, okay, after this is over, I don't learn some new moves. Like let's wrestle,
You trying to
because
practice?
yes, Saturday mornings was like kung fu movie, and stuff like that. And you was gonna get out there and you was gonna do your best to try to do Bruce Lee or whoever else. And then later on, like we flipping off of the beds, like we were just wild kids. Like every time it was always something like let's fight, let's wrestle, let's do something,
Jumping
something that
off of beds.
yeah, something to get a whooping.
Well, Jonathan Majors recently this week broke up a fight. And the reason why we're talking about this is because Jonathan Majors, if y'all guys remember, we talked about it once on the show, once or twice. He had an altercation with his girlfriend over, I don't know if it's the summer or like early in the year. I can't remember the exact
Hmm.
time. It was early in the year because it was during
Yeah.
the summer he started dating Megan Good. But anywho, they hadn't had their major court date, but now it's been set for October 25th. But this week, he was caught on film breaking up a fight, and it looks so fake. Talk about a writer strike, honey. He's in something. It was so to me. Okay, I'm gonna say to
Um,
me. It looked definitely looked more fake than WWE.
well, I seen it through TMZ, and initially, like the fight kind of looked real
Hmm.
before he just all of a sudden just come out of nowhere, and then you just stopping these two young people, which I'm like, what is you thinking? Like these day and ages, you got young people there fighting. You have, and you don't know these people, so you don't know what the people that are surrounding. You don't know who on whose side and
Hmm.
everything. Like it is so dangerous. Like you put your life at risk for people who you don't know. You're not a first responder. Plus, like you already in the court system saying that you're up there hitting somebody, and even when you see him pull them apart and go like this, it's like you could have you another lawsuit.
But it was so honestly,
It
it looked
was,
so
but it's
gentle.
just
It looked like stop, you guys. Like it. That's the part that really, for me, made it look so fake because how simple it was to break them apart. And not that that's not a good thing, but it just looks staged.
yes.
I mean, and you know what I mean. Although it wasn't real boxing, he was in the gym getting ready for Creed 3, and that was a great movie.
Yeah.
And he all them boop 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 boop. The muscles, because that's how they look. They look like
Muscles.
they popping. He ain't get that's they ain't fake. That's not on
No,
a Dr.
no.
Miami table. So, he may feel like, oh, I can break. And they look scrawny. Just really skinny, and they had on like what sweat clothes or whatever. I
Yeah.
can see if it was real, I can see the reason why somebody maybe who in the gym feels stronger, be a man or a woman, feeling like in that moment, oh, let me stop them. Because it also didn't look like a violent situation. But it honestly looked staged.
And at this point, if it is staged? What's the purpose?
I don't know, but people do weird stuff.
They do, but it's kind
Maybe
of
it's also
like,
his
brother.
personality, right? Because they see he's here in the community. He's all about this. I don't know. I
But
think it's possible. There people try to use whatever case that they feel like um that help them. And I've been watching Suits, and
but guess what, sir? This is
they
not it.
try
Because I'm
to
just saying, the
uh,
judicial court system is not ever been friendly to us black people. And two, you are finna go to court for said putting your hands on a white lady. If anything, get somewhere and sit all the way down. You shouldn't even be outside.
yeah, I definitely think he need to be sitting down. I definitely think he'd be sitting down. But if and the reason why I do think it was staged is probably because it's like, see, he's such a man of the community. It just y'all
It's
go
not
check it
gonna
out.
convey
Just do
well.
hashtag Jonathan Majors fight. It'll pop right up. But child, the Republicans are trying to get in a beef for real with Joe Biden.
Done it.
Done it.
Look, they was
My boy
already
Eric
there.
knows to say.
They was already on the scene back in 2020. Well, before 2020. Well, they have finally passed the votes to impeach Joe Biden. And a lot of it has to do with his son, Hunter. So if we could just kind of go back before the Ukraine war, they had already said that, Ukraine was one of the most, I guess, in the top five most corrupt countries in the world. However, I don't understand how the United States did not make that list, but there's no here there. But so they were saying that he had a lot of stuff dealings with the previous president and some other tanglement. So Hunter Biden ended up getting indicted on federal firearm charges after the plea deal fails. So he initially tried to do a plea deal and it was like, nah, that ain't happening. So now he's been indicted on that. So if it's for firearms, I know that kind of during some countries they do kind of like they had a movie out one time where it's like you're kind of like a firearms dealer, off the record to other countries, which a lot of people don't know. When countries, let's say like the United States, they go into these war torn countries, they do all this war and stuff, they leave those weapons behind, all of
The
our
people that
taxpayer
leave
money.
nukes.
Yes.
Mhm.
So it's kind of one of those type things. And it kind of go even deeper with a lot of stuff. But then they're trying to say, like, how much did Joe Biden have a hand in it and know it and covering up or all
Right.
kind of
And
sorts
I
of stuff?
also know that Hunter, one of the bigger things where it ties Joe Biden in is where he was making deals with people in an indirect way, like I have the ear of my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so like to say that we're gonna make this deal and this is what I'll be able to make happen for you. And so maybe that was true, maybe it's not. That is why they're doing the impeachment inquiry. Because I know they're at impeachment inquiry. They haven't started the impeachment. They're not about to start the impeachment hearing,
Right.
because as of right now, they don't have anything on Joe Biden like specific. It's just the ties that's with Hunter. But it's kind of like, how do you prove that your son didn't have you caught up in all of that?
Right, because if this is a father son conversation, of course, they have their own private telephone calls. They're going to have their own private conversations that does not have to typically go through those channels
Right.
of when the president make calls to other people and stuff, and it's recorded, and you have so many other people on the line, dictating and trying to analyze this and then trying to say what you can and cannot say and
Right.
stuff like that. So it's
Because truth is, he did, and still does have his dad ear. I mean,
exactly. I mean, it's kind of one of those things,
depends on what
but
you're talking about, but he have his ear.
it's definitely not surprising, because from when he got the nomination and he won the presidency, the Republicans, they already knew what it was going to do. So when
Oh
they
yeah,
midterm elections, when they flipped the House and the Senate, it was like you should have knew they was coming after you. And politically, no one fights harder than Republicans. And I will
trying to
say this,
save themselves, huh?
but when they do fight, I will say this: they get what they want.
That's because they go for blood. And
Yes, when I believe in
I mean, if
fighting,
they
it
don't
ain't
fight,
number one rule: don't lose, and they go by it.
if you're going to fight, I do agree. If you're going to fight, listen, you need to be fighting to win, not to let me fight to maybe hurt them a little bit. No, I'm fighting because I want to knock you down and I want to walk away. So we'll see what happens with the conversation. There are going to be some great people who have already been talking about, running for president, have like thrown their name in a hat. So I'm hopeful for that. And
Yes,
hopefully we can actually circle back to this conversation during that time, and just talk about all the candidates. We get somebody on about that.
yes, absolutely,
But y'all
absolutely.
talking about circling back on the Breakfast Club, because Diddy been around circling. Don't stop, can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah.
I don't know who has heard, if everybody's heard about this, but I know it was on social media. But recently, he also went to the Breakfast Club to talk about um, this thing that's going on with bad boy artists that we heard of: Carl Thomas, Danity Kane, 112. So basically, he went back to reassign the publishing rights to these artists. It's the artists and the writers.
Okay.
And so he was on there just kind of talking about what that meant. He said it was a process that started 2 years ago. He
Okay.
said, him being in what he says is him now being in a space where, he want to do positive things. He was like, I feel like it's only right. He said, I didn't get anything from me, like a piece of paper. Well, I guess they will eventually get something. So he went to his lawyers like 2 years ago. So now people are finally getting their stuff, because that's a process. You're just reassigning publishing rights. So what that looks like is documents having to be rewritten and all this other stuff.
Right.
And child, Danny Kane, Aubrey. I don't know if y'all remember Aubrey O'Day. She one of the people from
Yeah.
Danny Kane that is like on a whole lot of different reality TV shows. She has not
Yeah.
gone away. She has definitely remained relevant. She can
Mm-hmm.
sing down, okay? Just
Yes.
keeping it real. But she was recently asked about it on an interview, and she was like, she received NDA, so a non-disclosure
Mm.
agreement, like not to talk about the stuff in a disparaging way of Diddy, and then like all of his subsidiaries that fall under his name. I find that very interesting. Um, I think it's nice that that happened. He also tried to address the idea that, oh, well, you want to give people the publishing now that it's not worth anything. He was like, it's worth what it's worth, which technically is true, because there are going to be some songs and some artists that it still work because they're still getting played and they're still getting like
And you never know in the future who will sample
exactly.
what, and
So
it blows. It makes the
exactly,
song even more popular than what it originally was. And as the same as Quincy Jones said, ain't no money like music money, because it doesn't have an
and
expiration date.
it does not, because music doesn't expire. So I understand what people are saying, because it's like when the CDs came out, it looks very different from streaming, because on streaming platforms, you got that song got to be streamed so many times before you see anything. But at the same
Yes.
time, if these artists, if you now own it, if they can stay together and go out on the road, because I know like 112 was getting on this tour. If they
Mhm.
actually did something with their music and started putting music out, putting stuff out for people our age, honey, 40s, I'll
I'm
buy a CD.
here.
Okay, I still have a
Oh
CD
my God.
player, not in my
I
car, but have one
still
in my
want to.
house. I'm buying their CDs, and even with streaming. So now that you own it, to Diddy's point, it's worth what it's worth. So you're gonna have to see what you can do to make it work. You can make it worth. You can
And
up
you
your
can
value.
shop around your stuff. Maybe now, if you're making music, you
Yeah,
want sampling of, be it the lyrics or the beats of the song in itself, so that it can generate something, so that you can get credit, where credit is due, and you can get the royalties of it. But it also says that all of those people who have been saying that P. Diddy, he don't pay his artists, blah 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 blah, this confirms they was not lying. Well, one, you when you look at it, it's like you have people who have hits. Like, he's a hit maker, like, and he has an eye for talent. He has an ear for it as well. As I had said when we did our Usher Mania, one of the best concerts that I had went to was Bad Boy 25-year
hmm,
reunion, and it was very very nostalgic. And you could tell, like, he had them. It was no big bellies, no nothing, and everybody looked good, they sound good. So whatever P. Diddy, his boot camp, like, you go there, he not playing around with you
yeah.
all. Like, you're gonna
Like
make
we
sure,
about to do this and we're gonna do it right.
right?
There's something to be said though, I think, for someone trying to make a wrong right.
Yeah.
Timing could be effed up. Are they really gonna make the type of money they could have made if he would have did it sooner? But he was a different person, and he was just honestly following the mold of those who came before him. I'm not saying it's
Clive
okay. I'm
Davis,
just
main
saying
one.
he followed what these people were doing.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, and I
so
want
yeah.
to ask you this.
Hmm.
In this, did he say anything about giving over the royalties or the rights for Biggie Smalls to his mother? Because his mother have been very vocal.
Hmm.
She won't call his name, but she said, it's a music mogul just stole all my baby stuff. And it's like, he wouldn't have been who he is today had it not been for Biggie. And that is true. Because, as I
Yeah.
say, Biggie had the lyrics. It wasn't like neither one of them
Biggie
had
was
the
a star.
looks
Hmm.
or whatever like that. But as
Yeah.
I say, he gave rise to the Rick Ross and the Fat Joe and the Big Pun and stuff like that. It was just like, yeah, we big, like. But Heavy D also, because if people know P. Diddy's history, he was kind of, as he say, he was a gopher for Heavy D.
Mhm.
Within that whole conglomerate, it was like Andre Harrell, Heavy D, Albie Shore, P. Diddy, and Kim, his late wife who had passed. All of
Girlfriend.
them, yeah, and all of them
His
was kind of
girlfriend. I'm just
girlfriend at
his
the time,
wife.
but she was like Andre Harrell's personal
Hmm.
assistant. And one thing that all of them was doing at the time of their death, um, they was writing a tell-all book about Uptown Records. So
Well,
it
I
goes so deep. It
it
goes
goes
so
very
deep.
deep, and I don't want to say he didn't. So from what I heard, he did not. But what he did say is that all artists and writers, Biggie's
Okay.
mother is not an artist or a writer, and it was
However,
also the
she
publishing rights.
but she has the estate of him, so it's
Mhm.
only right that he pays the estate, which in turns with her, because Faith doesn't get any of that since she's that marriage, typically it ended in his death. you know
So I don't know. I mean, he has children as well, so it's like, how does the mother? I mean, I don't know.
I
Go
mean, at the
smash
time they were
anyway.
all minor children, so of course you couldn't do it then. But and sometimes it's already like that. But I don't feel like his mother and Faith never ever said anything about whatever monies or anything like that. Like his mother didn't help take care, but it was just like she wasn't getting the estate funds from his music, which should have kept everything afloat. And when you think about it, Faith has continuously made money. She hasn't really said anything, but she hasn't said like, yeah, I've been getting royalty checks, from Biggie's music either. So
Well, I'll say this: the next thing about Diddy is he not put out. Yeah, he put out an album September 15th. It's called the
okay.
Love Album. It has, I'm looking
Yeah.
at it, it's called, it has 23 songs. It's a lot of hit makers on there. He has some of his own songs. He had The Weeknd, he had French Montana, he had Mary J. Blige, he had Summer Walker, Sweet Lee, Josie, Nija, Busta Rhymes, Dawn Richard, which is
Oh wow.
interesting. Dawn Richard is from Danity Kane. So I'm just
Girl.
saying. And one thing I can say, I know Dawn Richard because I've followed her. She's from New Orleans. She's a little
Okay.
close, but I have been following her career and I bought some of her music outside of Danity Kane, and she has a pretty big following. Like, I don't know her money situation, but I know she has been consistently making songs, writing music, um, and doing her thing past Danity Kane, but she's on there. My assumption, hopefully, is that everybody's involved in this album get whatever was promised to them.
Well, I'm pretty
Breakfast,
sure it's a different looking at the contract and what I'm going to get in return than
absolutely.
at the beginning. Also, like the people who have did with making the band, because that was like the first reality television show about him, trying to create a group, and then Danny Kane came from like another show or whatever. But like those artists, a lot of them, they have done independent stuff, but a lot of them have kind of said like after the show it was like what we were supposed to do now. So it's been interesting.
Well, honey, somebody else made their way to the Breakfast Club.
They be booked and busy up there at the Breakfast Club, I ain't gonna lie.
They would eat and sip.
Yes, they haven't seemed to be. Mr. Tyrese, Mr. Crying and
Congratulations.
girl, I
Sorry for that,
mean,
man.
laughing, crying, just Mr. Social Media, like he had took it over. And I had to go back because the video that he had when he was there on the Breakfast Club, I had that in my YouTube. I'll watch it later because I had really just gotten tapped out from him
Mm-hmm.
because he was just it was everything with a negative light, and it was just like I do not want to be listening to your songs, and then I get this visual of this, and it's just like you got bangers, and I'm sitting over here just like I'm waiting on Rihanna to drop music. I want you to drop music, but luckily he has. But I mean, it's been a big old span. But he was on there. He's on a I'm Sorry tour, and a lot of things came out between him and DJ Envy and Charlemagne the God that people didn't know behind the scenes, where Tyrese was very instrumental in really just kind of saw the whole thing go through when DJ Envy, he became very open about his infidelities with his wife. And Tyrese, he said that the Lord just wanting him to reach out, but he just didn't stop there. He was kind of help guiding and just was a voice, like a sounding board, just a
Yeah.
really, really good
Envy really
brother.
was like, nah, like he was a big part in saving our marriage.
Yes. So when Tyrese was going through his stuff, on one side of his mouth, he said, I went whatever I did and God told me to do, I ain't looking for nobody to do it back in return. Then on the other side of his mouth, he was like, when I'm going through my divorce and going through this, you didn't reach out.
Mm.
So it's kind of, and I understand, we say one thing, but we really do want people to reach out. And DJ Envy end up saying the reason why he really didn't reach out because it was things that he said in like their group chat, or personally to his wife. He had became very, very belligerent and disrespectful. So he said, which was funny. He said some of the stuff that you said. He said, I really should have boxed your mouth. And I was like, oh, that's so New York. I'm gonna box your mouth.
Yeah.
But Tyrese, he was just like, he wanted people to extend grace and mercy to him when he was out of his mind. And I guess this is the first time, at least I'm hearing it, because like I said, I had kind of just not entertained or watched what he was doing, where he's really came out and said that he had mental disorder. He was on medication. That was the first time he was on medication. He never said what medication. He never said
Mm-mm.
what his diagnosis was. But he wasn't himself prior to the
Right.
medication, and I guess with the medication he wasn't himself as well either. But
And just to kind of, because some people might be like, why would the medication make you, maybe black out and stuff like that? Because I remember in the video he said something about, I said these things about Will Smith and his wife. I don't even remember saying it. I see it on, video, and even a thing with like congratulations and all that stuff. He says he genuinely doesn't remember any of that. He knows it happened because it's on video, but he doesn't remember it. And he was like blacked out. Um, but most people are like, why would that matter if you are taking psychological drugs, psychotropics? And it's
mhm,
because everybody's body's different how to react. And one thing he did say, which I can see why maybe it affected him that way, he doesn't actually use anything. He may smoke hookah. That is the limit of any foreign substance that he puts in his body. And then when he
yeah,
smokes hookah, he's smoking it at his house because he had his whole situation. I can remember when he posted about this little relaxation area in his house when he first got his new girl. Well, before he met his, I don't know if they got married, his current ex-wife. Um, he had posted about this area he created, and that's like the only place he actually smokes hookah. So I can kind of understand it from that point how it can
mhm.
affect you, because it's like if you're not putting anything foreign in your body's like, what is going on?
Yeah, and what a lot of people need, any type of neuroleptic drugs, even if it's for seizures or if it's for mental disorders, anything that's going to change a hormonal balance in your body is going to take 3 to 4 weeks for you to really start seeing a change. This is not like your blood pressure medication. You can actually
Right.
start seeing a change within, an hour or two of taking it. These things takes a long time to build up to become therapeutic in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a trial and error. Like if you ain't never been on it before, we just gonna try this, as I say, and see how well you do. And a lot of times the dosing, people, they have to change the doses, but it's hard. It's hard to regulate that, especially if you are already in a state of dysregulation and it's
Exactly.
brand new. But it was interesting how he just wanted grace and favor, like where, and he said in there, he was like, do you hold your homeboys when they drunk what they say, why they drunk? And Charlamagne God was like, no. He was like, exactly. He was like, well, I want people to do the same thing for me. But that may be what some people do. Everybody doesn't do that.
Some people will stop going out with you. Some people like, I don't like how you act when you drink, so if you have a plan to drink, I ain't coming.
Some
I ain't
people
gonna,
have gotten into physical altercations and arguments, with the people because they have said stuff that has just been out of pocket. Now, I'm a firm believer, just like what my mama said, if it ain't in you, it can't come out of you, regardless of whatever the situation is. And that's just the truth of the matter. But
very true. And then the other piece of it is, I can have grace for you and I could possibly forgive you depending on what it is that has happened. But that also doesn't mean that I want to move forward with you. A lot of times you see that with people who had struggled with addiction. They
mhm.
get to a place where they're now clean. And so all the things they've been doing to their family and friends, it's kind of like, I'm clean, so forgive me. And a lot of times is really hard for them. And I get that feeling of, I just like, I'm different. Please see me that I'm different. A lot of people can see. It's not that people can't see that you're different. It's that, yeah, your impact of the things that you've done,
Mhm.
I'm happy for you. I forgive you, but we are not where we used to be. And I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting dynamic between him and DJ Envy, because it seemed like from the story that the situation with his wife happened before the meltdown. And so he's like, I feel some type of way because you didn't reach out to me. And Envy's like, well, this is why I didn't reach out to you, because we had already backed off from you at that point.
And DJ Envy, he admitted he had blocked them. He said it
Right.
wasn't until like a month ago that him and Charlemagne the God, DJ Envy and Charlemagne had a conversation about Tyrese. And I guess because Tyrese had reached out to Charlemagne talking about therapy and different stuff like that. So he unblocked him. Still
Hmm.
didn't reach out, but he unblocked him. He was just like, I still got to take care of my family first. And I think it was interesting what you said about the drug abuse. People who do abuse drugs are going to have mental issues because you're destroying your brain. You can't get
Right.
that back. But if you already have some type of mental issues, a lot of times those people, they seek drugs and alcohol as
Right.
a medication. So it's kind of, you burning the candle at both ends.
You're not
And
kind. You are definitely burning.
yeah,
Both ways
and
of
I
doing
think those people who are in contact with them day in, day out, be it the significant other, maybe it's the parents, the children, those people who are in the home, I think they extend more grace and they will be more quick to forgive and still have you in proximity because they want this relationship so badly. Where other people, it's kind of like, okay, maybe you was here for this season and for this reason, and it's over, and I'm gonna move on. I'm not gonna hold it against you, but I can't forget it, and I'm
it.
not gonna
Right.
fool with you anymore. But it's like everybody that you still want them around because they're good people. You just wasn't good to them due to
Right.
whatever your cause was. And I think that's something that people have to accept when you're, dealing with mental illness or addiction. Everybody, when you come out on the other side of that thing, everybody ain't gonna be over there. And
Yeah.
everybody ain't coming over there. People will be like, that's good. But
And that's hard. And that's hard. I understand that it's hard for people to accept as well, because it's like, this wasn't me. For both scenarios, it's not really the person. There's something
yeah,
else that's overtaking it. And it's like, but people have the right to choose. I'm
exactly.
laughing because it's similar to our topic today. People have the right to choose if they want to be
Absolutely.
in your life or not. Um, it
And
does take us to our next topic, the next and last topic for while we're out. So, interesting enough, Young Jeezy has filed um
for
divorce
divorce.
papers uh, for against Jeannie Mai.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I used the word interesting. Somebody sent it to me, and the only thing I replied was interesting. Like, that was my response. I'm like, interesting, and mainly because in all cultures, you definitely find it less likely that a man files for divorce.
Absolutely.
And
Because they will
so,
string that thing on till Jesus come back.
yes, again, all cultures. If a man
Yeah.
usually will, if they're planning, when they are in a place where they're trying to move on in a very serious way, that's when they're trying to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
My money is on Jenny. I believe that she did it. I don't know what she done, but I think she done something.
well,
Um,
listen, about that, there have been a few things surfacing. I know we kind of talked about the one old clip that it came out when they first got married. Now they've been together only 2 years. The first one when she's on the real and she's like, yeah, this is talking about I guess interracial relationships and if she ever dated out of her race, and she was like, oh yeah, white meat is like the main course and dark meat is on the side.
Yeah, it was like I'll sleep with the black men because they're well endowed and they can satisfy me
Strong,
sexually.
they're
But
strong.
when it come down to what she looked at as far as husband material, which was still very interesting, she didn't even look in at her own ethnicity. It was like it had to be a white man.
I mean, that's not
Yes.
surprising. And not to say it's just that, I will say white people have cornered the market of going everywhere in the world to be like, hey, you see this? This is the standard. That is that's something that needs to be researched. Do you hear me? Because that's marketing. If marketing ain't marketing, how y'all reach the corners of
Before there was
the
billboards
earth?
and flyers and text message, anything else, and propaganda. Like when they said it as like white, quote unquote white is right. I don't
They
agree with
did something
that.
with that
Like
one, honey.
yes,
Got the
it
world in
was
the
a
chokehold since
brain.
the
It
day.
was definitely a brainwashing of cultures in
And I really
general.
think we kind of getting off topic with this, but I'll say this: I really think that it's probably because if other cultures weren't saying this, you only have this one culture showing up to say, "No, my culture is actually not just wonderful; it is better than yours. You should be like me." And if you don't have other cultures that's actually doing that, does it not
Mm.
make you like, "Oh, but they do have this, and we don't." That's
And
it's a
you don't
very
have any type of competing conversation in your head to say, well, why are you not the best? Well, they said they was,
exactly
so obviously they are.
right.
But
But
it
for
was,
her, no, I was gonna say,
yeah,
but
yeah, I'm
for
sorry.
no, I'm sorry. For her, they had that statement, and I think interesting enough, another video that I saw that she said it was two videos that I saw that she repeated it. And she said that her relationship with Jeezy, I guess she was trying to say, things that you learn about yourself when you're in a relationship. And I saw somebody comment this. It was hilarious because she was like, she didn't realize that she had anger issues.
Ooh.
And somebody who has anger issues, he was like, I follow him. He was like, I have anger issues, and I've had anger issues since I was 13 years old. How you don't know you have anger issues? He said,
Was like what
you
you ain't
are
never got into no
lying.
argument, you ain't
And I
never got suspended, you ain't got in a fight.
exactly.
Like
And I think
when
when
did
you
you get
have
these
anger
things?
issues, it does show up. Like it is not a brand new concept. And so
Right.
for you to say now at your big age, you just realize you have anger issues, um, it, and he was like, I'm with my equal, and he's challenging me. Okay, maybe that, but also could it be connected with that first idea of how you already thought about black men? So now that was already in here, and although you now realize that that is actually not real, what was in here come out because how dare you, black man, now tell me what to do or this is how you think things should go because I don't see you that way.
And guess what? Jeezy being Jeezy, knowing his upbringing, he ain't the type that even if he wasn't Jeezy as we know him, right? If he still was Jeezy from the block, you still wouldn't just finna sit up there and talk crazy to him and think that he ain't finna sit up there and say nothing back or
Exactly.
whatever
And
like that.
when
And
they
then
talk about young G, when they talk about having anger issues, because she didn't get into like, were you throwing stuff? Because it is very different you being mad that someone is like, oh, you have an opinion, you're asserting yourself with me, you have a different opinion than me. That is very different. What were you doing with that? Were you throwing things? Are you constantly cussing? And what was recorded, what's on record is that I would say, generally speaking, irreconcilable. How you say that?
irreconcilable differences.
Yes, that. But what it has been recorded, I guess verbally, he said, I cannot continue to stay in this marriage like this. So to me, I don't know. This is all allegedly just based on past things. To me, that sounds about right. Like if things are happening, it's like you're not about to beat up on me. You not
and
about to
and,
be
and it's
throwing
probably
stuff at
one of them
me.
things like I've worked a lot on me to grow to be this person. Guess what? You not finna have me go upside your head and stuff like that, and then I'm finna divert all the way back. And guess what? No matter what it is, they're gonna sit up there and say, well, black man, you did X, Y, and Z, and it's gonna be his fault. So guess what? I'm out. I pay
Exactly.
child support just like I do for the rest of them. And guess what? You gonna be another baby mama.
He actually is filing for full custody of his daughter. So that was
Ooh!
another thing I forgot about. So that even
Girl,
to me leans to the idea of I wonder if it has something to do with anger issues. Because if he has proof that she goes off the hinges and does all this stuff, he could potentially get full custody.
I'm gonna go on the record and say, in point of order, I guarantee you, if he told any one of his other baby mamas, this is what's gonna happen, da 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 da. Guess what? They have instructed him on how to get the evidence, and guess what? He got it. He got it.
Yeah,
He got it.
yeah.
Even if it ain't never talk to your mama got it. Because as I say, none of his other baby mamas, they not superstars or whatever like that. They come from the streets and everything like that. And guess what? They've been back and forth or whatever. I'm ready for a Jeezy album because I guarantee you he gonna do just like Future. I'm finna talk about you in these lyrics.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk about you in these lyrics. But that's a lot to say that he wanted full custody of that baby.
That is very, yes.
Something ain't right with her. But you know what? I'm not saying, and I know we got to move on because, she was very, very adamant about not having a child. She didn't want any kids or anything like that. But then she said sometimes you can meet the right person that loves you, and then you will want to have a child by them and stuff. I'm not saying it's not that, but I do know that there is a epidemic with a lot of non-black women that wants a black baby by black men because they think they cute.
Yes.
And that's just it. I just want to have this cute biracial baby where it's like these biracial babies grow up. And guess what? You still have to deal with a personality that this baby come with, the responsibility of being a parent. It is more this get you a baby doll. Now they got these baby dolls that look so lifelike. Get you
I
one of
mean, it's
them
scary.
$200-$300 baby dolls or whatever like that. So it could have been that, but he clearly must don't feel like, okay, you mama material to be able to, I don't know.
Yeah,
That
it's
ooh.
it's interesting. So we will talk. I obviously be talking about this in the weeks to come because this is just it's interesting. I think a lot of people are surprised because it's so short lived. To your point, she that idea of I don't want children and now you're with the right person. So I mean, on that part, I will say my heart goes out in a sense of you think now I'm in this perfect situation. So yes, let's have a child. And then it's like, dang. And that's really when you have to know there is no perfect situation. If you don't want children, I'm an advocate. If you don't want children, don't have them. Don't let nobody pressure you into having them. Don't have them. Don't lie to say you
And
want
she
them
could have,
just
she
to
might
be
not
with
have still wanted
somebody.
one, but she just didn't like the fact that guess what? He still got to be in contact with these other women that he had children with, and it's just one of them things where I'm pretty sure where I've been in that same situation, like what me and my son father talk about. That's between us. That ain't got nothing to do with you. And they probably already had things established, regardless of whether whoever he was with. This between 1 and 2, and guess what? Sometimes you got to go over there to the house
Right.
because that's where the birthday party gonna be at, and you're not gonna miss the birthday party. And it
Well,
could have just been a competition thing. As I say, anger issues come out all different type of ways. You probably mad like, oh well, it's okay, and you don't think it's like that, but then you get into it, and then you want to like, I'm better than them. I don't know, but my money is that is Jenny who had did something. That's what I think.
to
But
me, it has to be that because he's the one that filed.
oh,
And it
absolutely,
has to
and he
be
want full
something.
custody.
Yeah, and that's not. I mean, not to say that a man can't raise a child because they absolutely can, but it's just interesting. So it has to be also something very egregious. It's either that or he's being petty. It's one. It's like it's no in between. It's she did something very egregious, or he's like, I'm gonna get you. That
Well,
that
you
is the
know
only.
what? It goes into just like we were sitting up there saying, he chose he not gonna be a pilgrim and settle the same way we black women. We are not pilgrims and we not settling. We just not
Period.
gonna settle just because this is land.
So this
Yes.
topic has been rolling around the internet for years. in the recent years, we say definitely in the years of Kevin Samuels,
Mm-hmm.
and just in general, they've always been these gurus on what type of man can Black women get, right? And it's just interesting. So the most recent one was where Tyler Perry, he was interviewing, and I'll be honest, I have not watched this whole interview, so I can only take my opinion of what he said. I'm not going to lay my opinion into him, because I
Okay.
didn't watch the full video, but I know it's something based on what he said. And what he said in his interview, he was talking about, um, women need to, he didn't use the word settle, needs to be more flexible. And I was kind of on his page for a little bit. He's like, just be flexible, more flexible with your list, get rid of your list. I'm not a fan of that, but be more flexible with your list. And the man doesn't always have to be the breadwinner. If he, and this the line that have most Black women, not all, because some Black women are like, yes, he's right, in an uproar. If all he could do is pay the light bill, but he treats you good, sir. First of all, and I'm gonna say this because it's true. Most of your movies where the men could only pay the light bill have not turned out really well for Black women, have it? It hasn't. Um, and I also have this opinion about that particular statement. If you are a man or a woman who can only afford a light bill, you should not be in a relationship.
Yeah, you shouldn't even be out there on the market or whatever, because if all you can do is pay the light bill, where was you living in before I even met you? Because if that's all you can pay,
You can't even. That means you can't even feed yourself.
where was you at? And then some people probably in the comment section or will be in the comment section saying, well, what about if the light bill like $700-800 because it's a huge house? Okay, if that's a light bill, how much is the mortgage on that house? So, and also it's like, okay, let's go with, yes, he can pay the light bill, but is that all that he's going to do, or is that
Forever.
the baseline? But it's like, okay, are you continuing in where it's like, okay, right now you driving for Uber, but you are in law school, you are getting your master's degree, so
You working on a business.
you trying to focus on the education more so that you can finish up this degree in 18 months and not have a 2-year degree or 18-month degree, master's degree prolonged for a whole another 4 years like undergraduate. So you're door dashing. So right now it's not, but then I already know that you're doing data analyst, which just about anywhere they making 6 figures coming out. So guess what? If all you can do is pay that, I'm gonna be okay, because after this 18 months, because I'm gonna make sure that you fed, I'm gonna make sure everything, whatever, because I already know when you come out on that thing, I am the woman that is on your side. So I ain't got, if that's the bare minimum of what you're doing right now, but what else are you doing? But if that's all you're doing and you
Forever, you paying just for
acting
light
like
bill, we
my
got a
20-year
problem.
old son, you still trying to figure it out. And you this age, you in this 40, 35, the 55-year-old range. I don't know what you're doing.
And the thing about it is, if I think it all depends on perfectly when you meet that person,
Right.
because where are you in that relationship? I think for me, and it's not all women, but for me, if I was with someone and it's like, okay, this is what I really want to do, this is how I can contribute, cool. I don't see where I would have a problem with that. But the reality is, even for the man that you just met, and maybe y'all been on the street, you should, I definitely don't think you should be on a date. And the reason why I say, because you're trying to intentionally be dating,
And
and
what are you
really
dating
you're
with
in
the
school
intent?
and you in your hustle to pay your bills. Like, you actually don't have the time. Now, are you just looking to have fun? Da da da. That's fine. But this conversation is happening around women who are looking for forever mates. Because there's a very big difference between dating and having fun and getting to know people and going out and whatever, getting your needs met, whatever it may be. That is very
Right.
different than finding a partner. And someone who is in school or whatever they may be doing, that they're trying to build themselves up, and also with all the work that they're trying to do to pay a particular bill, they really don't have even time for you for a real relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like when people make comments like that, they're really talking about something that is consistent.
Yes.
And it's like, I also, let me say this, I also don't feel that if a woman chooses that for themselves, that anything wrong with that. I don't. Like,
No,
at the
absolutely
end of the
not.
day,
That's the beauty of being single. You get to filter out. Guess what? The red shoes don't get mad when I put the filter in at Amazon that I want a black leather pump size 7.5 closed toe sling back. The rest of the shoes don't get mad because they weren't selected. I can, when you're single, you can be as selective as you want to be in whatever areas that you want to be. Because this is the thing. Nobody gets, the short people don't get mad because all of the tall men get chosen.
it'd be the tall ones. So I have a friend that's tall and like, and not that she cares, but she's tall, and it's like, yeah. So she wants a man that's her height or honestly taller. So
Right.
the tall people will look like, I mean, so y'all just want all the short women? Can y'all please, which is a whole other thing, right? Because men be on that like wanting a short woman, but again, this conversation is not about what's right or wrong, because I think that is where a lot of the issue is. Like I call it black woman splaining. And when they talk about woman splaining,
Mm,
black woman splaining, like we are one of the most educated groups here in the US. We don't need you to tell
absolutely.
us that maybe you should broaden your dating pool. Maybe you should date someone who, like, we're smart enough to know that our options will grow if you make some things, as Renee said, filtering. I think
Right.
everyone, including black women, should be able to choose what they want. And if I stand on that, and yes, I might not find out until I'm 60, but that's my choice. So we don't
Yes.
need to go into these long posts and podcasts and write-ups about the things black women need to do to get a mate.
Right.
That's the pace
Because
of
this is the
getting
thing. A
found
lot of
you.
us, we are already mothers, so we don't have no problem with finding people. But it's kind of like, why should we dummy down our requirements instead of black men up and up their criteria? Now, this is one thing, and I know it's probably going to be some people they are still in their feelings about their godfather Kevin Samuel. But when I do understand when he say you average at best. It was like you date within your own pool and stuff. And he would get on men too. Now, what got highlighted was when he was going in on black women. But when he first started, it was everything geared to the black man, where it was like you have to have more because he really highlighted, like, look, black women, they're going to school, they ain't waiting on you to get your stuff together. They're not waiting to buy houses, they're not waiting to buy cars. Like, the society is no longer that a woman has to have a husband in order to get these things, because around the 70s, that's when a woman could get a actual bank account. But prior to that, you couldn't even have your own bank account.
Without a
So
mate.
you had to get married in order to be able to have some. You couldn't buy a car, you could not buy a house, you couldn't have these things unless you were married. I'm a component, get married, have this family unit. But what good is just any old family unit? Because what kind of children are you going to produce out of it?
I mean, it goes
Because
goes back to kind of what we were talking about in our show, Commit to Submit. You know,
yes,
now I think it's all about what you value in marriage.
right,
Women
yeah,
and men, the reality is the reason for getting married has changed, like you just stated. So now it's all about what do you value, and how does getting married bring value to your life individually, not talking about what it looks like together, but what it brings to you individually. And I think that is a big piece of it when it comes to black women. It doesn't bring value to, for some. I'm not going to speak for all black women, because some black women do feel like, well, if you're going to add value to me, then that may equal more money. But I think that's one of the questions that you have to answer yourself. what is settling? And I think that's a very individualized answer, because what I may feel like is settling, Renee may not. What she may feel like is settling, I might not. When it comes to a certain amount of money, I don't particularly have a number. Like, I have to have a man making six figures. Like, that is not on my list of things that is important to me. A man that's ambitious is, a man that supports me in my ambition is, like, that is important. I can tell you one thing when it comes to finances, though, you're gonna have to pay more than a light bill.
Exactly. And also is that if I make more than you, you need to be comfortable with that. Because I'm not gonna go out
Exactly.
and day one tell you, hey, I made X amount of money or whatever like that. But if I tell you what my profession is, you can Google that up on salary.com and you go get the low, the median, and the high. And just realize I fall somewhere on that. And usually it's gonna be median to the high. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying, like right now, somebody Google up what it is for the national average, and definitely for where I work at. Is I'm going to be a little bit above the mean, but not at the highest, but I'm somewhere in between that. So it's like if you have a problem or an issue with that, then I have zero time to try to stroke your ego and say, it's okay, because I know what the people in my family prior that I didn't even know who prayed, that guess what, all of these people that's coming up under me, that they are able to read, they're able to write, they can go and do more. And then also what my mama, she sacrificed for me and my sister to be able to have a good quality education, because as she said, I want y'all to be able to have y'all own without getting on your back. And it wasn't that she was against us getting married or having somebody, but it's like, I don't want you all to be bound
Yeah.
by to say like, hey, I gotta have a man to be able to have these things, or I'm going to have a man at any cost. And as one of our people in this said, most men are not comfortable with that. It's a blow to their ego. Exactly. But guess what? This is the thing. You can't say, hey, I want me a good looking woman. I want an educated woman, good job, that she ain't got her hands all in my pockets and stuff. Okay, be careful what you ask God for. God already told us you don't know how to pray. Let Jesus intercede in some of those prayers, because guess what? When you get somebody that's pretty and then they educated and then they gainfully employed and they're not in your pockets, usually if they ain't in your pockets, they got money of their own. And it's not saying that I don't want you to be a man, because I would say, yes, I can go out here and I can pay for whatever I need to and whatever I want. But when I get ready to go on a date, yes, I'm old school. I have zero expectations to pay. Especially if that's what you want, you need to talk. Let us talk about
Exactly.
it
Let's
from the
put it out
beginning.
there. I saw on a dating site, it wasn't me, it was this woman on TikTok was like, this is what I'm dealing with. And so she's swiping, she's talking about the different guys, and this is in Texas. And one of them on their like bio is like, you can't be too broke. That was the man. And so that's the interesting thing to me, that on one side, and I'm not saying this is for that man, but that conversation of, like you're saying, on that one side, I want a woman who have her own da 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 da, and the other side is y'all doing too much, and or you shouldn't have this expectation of men. So women, specifically black women, because we're talking about
Exactly.
black women shouldn't have an expectation of what a man should have, but anybody else can. And we say anybody
Right.
as black men, that's all, everybody else, other cultures, other races, ethnicities, they can have their expectation of women and men, especially when we're talking about, let's go back to the woman part. In most cultures,
Mm-hmm.
it is expected, it is understood, what is this woman getting by marrying you? What is this woman getting from being with you? I remember I got my nails done, and this guy, he recently came to the US. This is when I was in Nashville, came to the US from China. And they always ask you, you got a boyfriend, whatever, whatever. And so I asked him, I'm gonna make conversation too. And he got a job. And I was like, do you have a girlfriend? He was like, no, I don't make enough money for a girlfriend. I said, well, you have a job? He's like, no, this is not a girlfriend type of job. And we laughed about it and move on. It's funny, but I thought about it then, and I'm thinking about it now. This man already has an understanding of, like, yeah, so there's a certain expectation, when I am with a woman, if I want to seriously court a woman, what that takes. And you see these
And to be able to
TikTok.
take her out for the market, so it even slims down the competition. So if somebody else come, like, I want to be able to take care of you, like, whether obviously you got to do this, if not even further, where it's like he already know, particularly probably, let's say like if he wanted to date someone of his ethnicity, he already know they expect to be
They
taken
expect
care
it.
of.
I
They
saw on
expect the
Instagram,
woo woo woo.
on Instagram, that guy, he always stopped people like, how long have you been dating? I have seen so many Asian couples when they stop, they're talking about it, and the woman is like, he buy me this, he buy me that, da 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 da. I
And
remember I
nothing
saw
comes
this
across
one
as she's a
TikTok.
gold digger. It's
And for
where she's
them, it's
expect.
not. For us, it's we're gold diggers. And that is the problem. That for any other woman, have an expectation to be elevated in such a way, when it comes to Black women, we should not be have an expectation you buying. Because if you buying something for me, that means I'm giving you some sex. So ours have to be exchanged. It's not, oh, here's a bag, I want you to be with me. And
Right.
I remember I saw this one TikTok when it was these Middle Eastern women, and I want to say that, and I could be wrong, and I forget what they call it. It was like, what is it that you're expecting in your, I want to say Dow? It wasn't a diary. I can't remember exactly what it is, but basically it was something like, in order to be married, to become betrothed. And I mean, these one was like saying specific vacations, type of persons. It wasn't even about a big house for the family. It was like, just for me to talk to you, for you to be engaged to me, this is what is expected. And the thing is, Black women for real, majority is not even looking for that. It's that thought that we should feel lucky. And I think that's why we get so mad. It's like, just be lucky somebody trying to talk to you.
Like how?
And I'm gonna say the
Why?
best, Black women in America, because it's very specific, honey.
Yes,
Okay, because they get
absolutely.
mad when we talk about the Nigerians. Now they might have 4 or 5 wives back home,
But guess
but they
what?
spending
Even
money.
if they do, they if back in Nigeria and other African countries, they have enough wives that they can afford. And not just that, they look at, okay, if this wife has 6 kids, am I able to support these 6 kids as well? But guess what? They try to make sure that this particular wife have already had the kids that she have before they even think to go and look somewhere else. But guess
Exactly.
what? They know, you know what? If you leave here today, me and these kids are going to be taken care of. And a lot of it is like, okay, I don't want to be struggling for the basic necessities of life: food, shelter, clothing, transportation, education. But it's like with us, and it's almost like because of the society in which we are in and the way that it is towards Black women, it
Black
is
or
no
African
reason.
American
When we
women.
did that show a while back and it was talking about um who's businesses and stuff, and it was like the new businesses that are started in America, one is white men, the second is Black women are new startup businesses, as I said, next to white men. Then CEOs, CFOs, high up in the ranking of business is Black women. When you look at the statistics of Memphis, Tennessee, over 80% of the businesses are owned by Black women. When this gentleman had told me that, I said, so where that leave y'all Black men? Because this is a very, very chocolate town. It's not like, okay, Memphis got one side that's Black. Like, no, every neighborhood is a Black neighborhood.
And see,
So
that's the thing. I think asking that question is so important. And this is not even to take a dig at Black men, because I'll give credit to the fact that I feel like certain things um that happen here in the US, because that's where I live, so that's what I can speak to,
mhm,
are certain things that happen are intent to become divisive with us. So when
mhm,
it comes to different grants, oh, they're for Black women. Why is it just for Black women? There aren't a lot of things that are out there for Black men, besides, of course, the process, whatever, but there are not extra things that are set up in a lot of places where Black men have access to these things. And because I had a client actually say that to me recently, like, y'all don't understand, you know um y'all don't understand how, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. Y'all don't understand how it seems like, in his perspective, is like, it seems like things are set up, and not just in the thing with having a baby, but things are there for Black women to be a part of, in order to grow. But you don't find a lot for Black men. Because I'm not gonna, I say a lot because I don't know of a lot or whatever. When you hear about the Target grants and all that stuff, a lot of it is Black women. It is centered on Black
Do
women.
you think that maybe a lot of stuff is centered to Black women is because we are the ones that they see that's moving and shaking?
I think a little bit, but some of it is, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Are we the ones that's moving and shaking because some doors that have been open for us, because some Black women at some point pressed through? But that doesn't take away from Black men who broke ceilings. But
Yes.
they create, because I do believe, if you, and we're talking about society, if you create this thing, and you have all these Black men that are creating businesses, and therefore they are, big entrepreneurs in their towns and around, so they're becoming very visible in their neighborhoods, and so now you're uplifting, even if you're not doing, people watching you. Yeah, I think that is super impactful. If people were seeing it, whoever they is, we know who they is, but don't know, they don't
Right.
want that. That
I
is for
know.
sure. So to me, it's a mixed bag. It's not an all or nothing. I don't feel like that is a very black and white thing.
Ooh,
Um,
in the comment section, it said it's designed that easy for two reasons. One, Black men are not starting businesses at the same rate, and because Black men are targeted for the prison system, not
right.
to be business owners. So
Exactly.
that goes back to, it is systemic, but a lot of times when you look at us historically, and that's why we're saying definitely African American women, because this does not play in the same way for our Black sisters of the Caribbean descent, or our Black sisters from the countries from on the continent of Africa.
And let's just say, we're
Whereas,
not saying that y'all all got, and I'm speaking for anyone who might be
yeah,
watching, y'all all got rich husbands.
no,
What
we're
we're
not
saying is,
saying
from the concept of this thing where, like, no, Black woman, you need to have a man that can only pay the light bill.
no,
Let me
but
decide what I want.
Exactly, and don't bash me over the head because I want something more than just the light be a paying person.
Exactly.
Especially if that's the pinnacle of what he's going to be able to do, and not anything above that. But I think also, when we look at systemically, a lot of the resourcefulness that Black women have had to do, it was out of necessity, not because that's what we wanted to do. But
Right.
guess what? If the Black men are not doing these things, and they don't feel like, well, if I go over here and get with someone else of a different ethnicity, I have no problem with saying, hey, this is what I bring to the table, da 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 da. Versus what you brought to the table to me is like, be happy that I like you. Well, then guess what? I gotta start. I gotta
Right.
get educated. I got to be able to take care of me and my household. I got to be able to take care of these babies. What if something happened to my mother? I want to be able to support and help other people that I love and I care about, because I can't, as I say, what I want may could not come into further on down the road before I can have a two income household. And then sometimes you do see with some Black women, them and their adult children, they stay in the house because they used to staying in the house, but because they've been watching their mother do these things, and it's just like, okay, why would I leave? Like, I want to make it easier for her because I've seen her struggle. It's this lady from my hometown. She actually graduated with my sister, if I'm not mistaken. And, she has her kids young and stuff. And then they're saying, she went out, she got her nursing degree, she's working, killing it with that. And then she opened up a business, and now open up another business, and open up another business. Then she started, like, her kids opening up business because they're old. And it's just like, baby, she's killing. But guess what? It was out of pure necessity,
Right.
because Oprah said it best: nobody's coming to save you.
Right.
And
And
if I
going back
know
to the
ain't nobody
comment,
coming to save me, I gotta figure out how to swim, and I
exactly.
gotta figure out how to reach for
And
something to
pointing to
float
the
on.
comment and to what I was saying, that it came out of a necessity because of the goal of separating the black family and getting the black man out of the home. And yes, we know that a lot of people made these decisions on their own. So, I don't say, oh, well, he left because of the government. I'm not saying that. However, black men for a long time were put in places, even families, like, well, they literally were better off if you weren't in the home, because if you came to the house you couldn't get any additional assistance. So just even that whole cycle that was created to separate us, I definitely, like I said again, it's one of those things of what came first, the chicken and the egg. And here we are, and I think this is where we are now in 2023. We're in a place where, yes, black women are rising and we're doing things and we're conquering things, but black men are also. So now, in a greater number than ever before, I would say, when it comes to businesses and graduate, the numbers are going up, things like that. I think the dynamic of our relationship and how we relate to others has changed. And
Absolutely.
even some, but that part has changed, but the idea and the value of the black woman has not. And
Oh
Malcolm X
yeah.
said it best, you know, the most devalued woman on the planet
Disrespected.
is a black woman. He's talking about black women in the US.
Yes.
And
And
the
but he knew
value,
the value of us because, as I say, we was on the front line. We was getting beaten, right, and dying. We were. A lot of us we died, but guess what? All of our names didn't get into the history books. Because
exactly.
guess what? The white people, they did not care whom they sick dogs on or water hoses on or who they killed. Um, it was our children from our womb that they were stealing as well. Like we heard it as well as collectively as a community, but the mothers as well. A- As I say, when you're doing the marches, who out there passing out water? Who making sandwiches?
Right. So I think that one of the issues that are facing us when it comes to the conversation of settling, right? Because
Yeah,
again, this is not saying that, oh, every black woman need to have a man that make 100 figures. That's not, again, that's not even on my list. But I don't feel like anyone has a right to tell me what should be on my list. Like, and I don't, and
exactly.
don't give me no suggestions either. If I didn't ask you, don't give me suggestions, because guess
Because
what?
I
I understand that if I open up broaden my horizons, I'll meet more people. I realize if I want to maybe date outside of my race, that'll give me a broader spectrum. If I date people who may be older, a little younger, or depending on their economic status, duh, we don't need y'all to constantly tell us that. And that is the problem. The constant conversation about what women need to be doing, black women specifically. Like, stop. Please
Right,
stop
because no
telling black
one goes
women
and tell
what they
our
need
other
to do.
counterparts, our other female counterparts, well, you shouldn't want this and you shouldn't want that. And like, guess what? It's like, well, we should be able to be happy with the scraps that you get was given. I'm sorry, but guess what? It went against our DNA when we was on a plantation. Guess what? It's the same way now.
So I have a
So
question for you, Renee.
yes.
And I put this up earlier, but we kind of veered off again. But what is settling to you?
Settling for me is not just in the finance. Sometimes, as I say, settling financially is someone that does not make equivalent or they make less than you. However, I will say this: sometimes you can get somebody who make more than you, but they just as stingy as they want to be, and you might as well be
Are they
dealing with
horrible
somebody
with
who.
money?
Exactly. So you could be dealing is equivalent to dealing with somebody with no money. Also, sometimes settling for could be you do have your list that maybe he's tall, he's dark, he's handsome, he's a God fearing man, maybe he is educated and he has these things already going for them, and then you start realizing like, okay, what are some things that I can compromise on? Okay, maybe he don't have to be 6 feet tall. Okay, maybe he ain't got to be, Morris chestnut, or Wesley Snipes chocolate, but he can be brown. He can be Michael, Michael G. Um, Jordan, Michael B. Jordan Brown, or whatever. But then when you get to those core things, when it comes down to, okay, if I want a God fearing man, all right, if he's not, that's going to shake the foundation. That's going to set the foundation of the family. So maybe I don't want to compromise on this. So maybe I'm not going to settle for that. Maybe, okay, I don't want to deal with somebody who got a lot of kids. I don't care if they grown or not. You know, So it's like, do I compromise on that? I don't want to deal with someone who has children necessarily younger than my child. So do you compromise on those things? So it could just be on a whole plethora of stuff. Also, okay, are you gainfully employed? Can you become gainfully employed? You know,
How long
what
has
what
it
is
been since you've been gainfully employed? Because so you could potentially meet someone who is between jobs, and although they're between jobs, that could mean you were at one law firm and now you're looking to come to another, or you know you used to be an assistant manager at Walmart and now you're trying to get another position at Publix. Because I don't personally see anything wrong with these men who are gainfully employed and are working and are hardworking. And for me, when it comes to settling, I think settling is going against things and values and beliefs, um and things that you have identified as your needs in a
yes,
relationship.
you
And
compromise your needs for
needs
someone
and wants,
else.
exactly. And needs and wants are two different things. You know, I may need someone who's ambitious. I have dated people who are not. And I was like, absolutely not. This is something, it wasn't until I dated, so I've only dated maybe one person seriously that wasn't that ambitious. But I can notice it very quickly now, because in that I was like, I don't like this. And
Yeah.
I realized that a few months ago, like, yeah, and that's important to me. That is a need for me to, I guess, maybe a level of respect or whatever. I don't know what it is. Um, my need may be someone, well, definitely somebody who's honest. I think that's a given. But I have a need for someone who's supportive. Now, my wants, I think that's definitely on some, like, if I want somebody 6 foot, I need to have a beard. That's not a need. That's a want.
Yes. So
Like,
certain things like that.
yeah.
And some things, okay, and I'll give a little background with me. So when I lived in Chicago, I started this relationship with this guy, and he knew exactly down to the dollar amount of what he needed to make. And he drove Uber, and he was like, he liked driving for Uber because he could do it on his own time. He didn't have, a supervisor breathing over his shoulder, which I think sometimes some things like Uber, DoorDash, those would like was perfectly made for people who was just like, I don't know if they can comply with rules or just that whole construct. Maybe
And
they just haven't gotten mature
flexibility.
enough. Right. But he would complain about money. And I was just like, so why don't you just drive more? Or have you thought about getting a job in addition to this? And he was just like, no, but I got enough to get by every month. And I was like, okay, so why would you even complain about money where you know the answer to get more money is for you to work more or get a second job? But you refuse to do that. So to me, it's like, shut your mouth. I did
Exactly.
not realize, and I remember me and you was having this conversation. It was like, girl, you always done had people who was a hustler. And it was like they was hustling out there in the street. She was like, you always have dealt with somebody who always had a job. They was gonna
You
work
know how
more,
to make a
whatever.
way.
And it was just like when you've always had something, you don't even know that you need it until you don't have it. It was just like, oh no, I can't do that. So yes, I gotta know what your hustle and grind is. And I didn't know that I needed someone that was sympathetic and empathetic because I was dating this one guy. He just wasn't, and I felt that he was kind of mean spirited. And I remember when they had the hurricanes initially in Puerto Rico, and I remember having a conversation with him about that, and he felt so bad for the people. And I remember us praying together for the people. And then I had a situation. with one of my family members, and I was calling, checking, and everything like that, and it was just like I don't even. And we were supposed to be planning this trip, and it was just like you ain't even got the trip together, and you always worried about something that ain't got nothing to do with you. And I was like, hold up, that did have something to do with me. That's my cousin. That's my cousin's child. Like don't do that. And it was just like very, and then just it was like, okay, go ahead on and tell me how you feel. And so some of the things that he said, it was very, very hurtful, where it was just like, when I got the bad news, you was right there and I cried in your arms. And you know what I'm saying? You consoled me, but it was just like, okay, I can console you for
But
this
after
moment
that,
because
that's a wrap.
clearly so after that it was like, but I never had anyone who felt that type of way when tragedy had ever struck in a family and stuff like that. So it was like certain things you don't know that you need, but guess what, those
Until you
are,
don't have it. Because the
and
moment you don't have it, you're like, oh,
this
okay,
is
yeah,
non-negotiable.
I don't like this.
Well, let me ask you this question. Have
Mhm.
you ever dated someone or been involved with someone when they realize like, oh, you smart, you got this degree
You
or
know
whatever, and
that's an
then they
interesting
like, I
thing.
don't know.
So I can't say I didn't date him. I met him and we had one conversation. And I am a different Myochi than I was in my 30s and my 20s. When in my 20s, my 30s, I would entertain foolishness. Similar to the comment and say, settling can also be banking on potential. Child, I would bank on potential. It is a bad idea. And if you in your 40s, you already know. I need kinetic energy. Isn't it kinetic?
Yes,
I need
kinetic
kinetic energy,
is
the
movement energy
moving,
that's in,
energy that's moving. I don't need
you know what it's
potential
doing.
energy. And to be
Potential
honest,
just sitting there. We don't know
I
what it go do.
exactly. And in my 40s, I definitely am not going, I'm not going past 38. Like maybe you 35 and you have a good conversation. But 38 has been, because I've gone past 38 and it's like, baby, I just can't. It's just an interesting age. But anyway, so at this nice, ripe, sweet age of 42,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't want potential. And so when we're comparing and we're talking about stuff, and it doesn't mean it has to look a potential a way, but talking to this guy, the conversation started off nice. And like he asked me what I do. I think that is a general question, right? Like you're trying to get to know each other. It's not a judgment. He
Mm-hmm.
happened to be a barber. He had his own, like, is it called salon or barber, whatever place it is?
Barbershop, yeah.
Barbershop. Lord have mercy. He had his own barbershop. Like I think I had almost finished school, something like that, and we met, and it was a good conversation. And we talked earlier, and then we got off the phone. And then when he calls back, he asked me about, oh, so you're in school to become a therapist. What all does that take? Now he asked me. And I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So and if somebody you met and tried to put me on, and so
Yes.
knowing
But
that
I did not know the person. This was just
right, you
based
didn't
off of
know
first
you didn't
conversation. It was
know
just like,
um
okay.
yeah, and he was like, oh, you have friends or whatever, interesting. But anywho, so he asked me, basically, because he knew that we met through each other when in school. Like, yes, I just recently changed careers. Yes, it's scary. I'm still happy that I did. He then says, well, you're not gonna beat me up with your degrees. Like,
Stop the
I'm
car.
like, so
Jesus,
you
don't take
just
the
asked,
wheel, take the whole car, Lord.
take the whole phone. And I'm like, I don't understand what you mean by that, because I didn't. He said, I'm just saying, I've had past experience. I said, I understand. So, okay, whatever. I'm still continuing the conversation. This conversation goes so left. I'm gonna speed it up. I'm making a long story short. He makes a comment about his ex and about comparison. And you would think that it was a real statement until he asked me, what kind of car you have?
Oh
And I
Lord.
said, a Kia Sorento. His response is, oh, so you're poor.
Girl, we're gonna have to put the E on this
I
episode for
hollered. And when I say I
explicit.
hollered, I laughed because first of all, what? How how do you equate me having a Kia Sorento to being poor? And also, if that's what you tell somebody you're trying to date. And the reason why I'm connecting those two things is because I think he felt some kind of way about me having 2 degrees, right? So
Right.
now you spent in this entire conversation trying to build up your ego, trying to finding something to bring me down. And when I tell you that was the last conversation we got off the phone, I didn't even get loud because it was honestly funny. And I remember I told you about it and I
Yeah.
laughed. It was like the audacity. Who says that? That was the first, like, who even says that? He didn't say I'm joking. Even if he said he was joking, I was still like, no, you're
No.
serious, because that is like a real for real thing. But he wasn't joking at all, because then it went to, yeah, because you a queen, you didn't, sir, whatever. So we get off the phone, and he said, let me just say that he said some other stuff while we were on the phone. I definitely stayed on there too long, but when I tell you I'm in my 40s and I've realized what I want and I don't. The next day he called me, I didn't answer, and I texted him. I said, just want to let you know I'm not interested. Feel like we just have different values. So I wish you the best on your journey. He texts back, figures. Yeah, figures. You said a lot of stuff on this phone call beyond, my car and me, I'm poor.
Right.
So,
And
but I say that to say, like, that insecurity that someone talked about in the comments of, and the ego.
oh yeah.
Yeah, you find that a lot in where someone makes more money, whatever. So for me, when it comes to settling, that's why I said, realizing that I definitely need someone who is supportive. Now that I realized that long before this conversation, but I am someone who is, I would consider myself ambitious, and that doesn't mean always like climbing the ladder. Like, I'm always doing something new. Like, that's
Right.
just me. People who like, oh, my plate's so full. If your plate is full, your plate always full. And either you just
That
moving
is
stuff off
true.
to the side or you putting your plate down for a little bit. But I am that type of person that I'm always doing something. If I'm not doing school, if I'm not doing a podcast, I'm involved in something. I'm trying to find something else. I'm creating music. I'm like, oh, let me take up a new hobby. Like, that is me. So when I say ambitious, that's what I mean. Someone who's like always just doing something. And it's not to be busy in that way. Now, I love a good
Yes.
hangout. I love to sit myself down and watch television. But,
But
I
even
wouldn't
if
go
your
too
thing is
long.
like, you know what, this year I'm gonna go and do traveling more. So, that's on your plate. Like, guess what? Catch me at the airport. Like, somewhere it's nice. Like, look, follow my car because I'm on the road. Like, I'm in the wind.
And
But
I think that just based on kind of what we were talking about, financial pieces, and even in the vein of, oh, you're poor, I think that is a question when we're talking about Black women and Black men when it comes to valuing each other and what we bring to the table and what we bring in relationships for serious partnerships. Because we're
yeah,
also, again, we're talking about serious partnerships. Most people,
exactly.
if you just have a cut buddy or somebody to have fun with, you really don't care what they do. Okay.
Exactly.
The
Because
the person is, we already know, the better the bedroom is.
sometimes
So
it is like
that's
that's
the time
all I
people
got
don't
the time to
care.
work
Okay.
on.
So right now we're talking about in serious relationships. And I think another value that needs to really be dug into for Black women and for Black men is, is a provider just financial? Because a lot of that
Mhm.
conversation does come from like, oh, Black women are y'all gold diggers. Oh, he doesn't have enough money. Like, when we're talking about what is settling and what is important to us, is it just providing financial stability? Now, I think that's important, especially
It is
the
because you
year
gotta
in
eat,
a
you
year
gotta
of everything
live.
is high as the sky. Honey, orange juice is $10.
Ooh,
Tissue paper is 50. Like, it's just ridiculous. So
gas
if
went
I
by
ain't got
like
it,
a
baby,
mouse.
I'm gonna need you to have it. We're gonna have to figure
Yes,
out how to get it. And if
yes.
we can't work together to figure out to get what we need, I don't
Because
want
these gas prices seriously have me looking at electric vehicle, and also because I had to pay the IRS back,
it. Hmm.
and then just knowing that I can get like $7,500 credit for having an electric vehicle.
Oh
Yeah,
wow. I don't know.
yeah.
That's a
So
whole other
I'm
topic.
just saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a similar situation like that. I was crazy about this one guy. I just knew I was going to be a military wife and I was going to see the world at the United States of America. United States Army expense, and I was prepared to really be that military wife. Like, if he wanted 10 kids, I was prepared to give him all of the kids that he wanted. Even my mother was just like, everybody knew I was sold on
Mm-hmm.
this guy. Like, I couldn't move. Like, I'm waiting on Skype. I will still have, like, when I hear that sound, just like I'm thinking like, oh, let me hurry up and run. Let me go over here. And I remember, because he would like be gone for a year, come back. He was on tour, in the Middle East, and if he came home for 2 weeks or whatever, like we'll see each other. And so I remember this one time, it's like, okay, you're gonna be at home. You're not already set up to go back in another year. So I'm up there. He's stationed at Fort Campbell. And I remember we up there and we just talking and everything like that. And we always here we is like we have a span of 6 years, trying to get it together. And we just cannot get it together for whatever reason. I know my sister's probably like, child, I already know this story. So but I remember having a conversation with him one night, and we just talking, and he was just like, "I just don't know if you want somebody like me." And I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm right here with you. Like, pinch me. Do I need to pinch you? Like, I'm right here with you. Like, I'm not going anywhere." And he was just like, but you're so pretty and you got your education, because this is when I was getting my second bachelor's of science degree. He was like, and you just got it all together. And I was like, no, I don't. He was like, but you got a good work balance and school balance. And my son, he was little then. He was 2 going on 3 years old. Maybe he was 3 or whatever. And I'm just sitting up here like, what this man see? Like, I feel like I'm all over the place. Like, I am like
Yeah.
1 second away from slipping, falling, and it's just like, okay, I need the whole village to try to help me. Like, it's like I'm trying to keep it up together. Like, trust me, this is a very conscious effort every day to make sure, like, okay, I'm taking care of my son, I'm taking care of school, I'm doing all this other kind of
It
stuff.
sounds like he was used to people who didn't have nothing together.
I don't know, but the
Because
whole
that can
thing
happen.
that
If
get
you're
me,
used to
he
people
was
not having
like,
anything together, if someone has just a little bit of togetherness, you're like, oh, you so put together. You
but
got
what
it all.
threw me when he was like, but you're just so pretty. I was like, hold up, because we met off of Yahoo Singles. Like, this is how far this
Throwback,
was
throwback.
back. Oh yes, like early 2000s. And I'm sitting up here like, even though Catfish wasn't around, but it was like that was my picture. Like, it was, and we had video chatted, I don't know, countless hours and stuff like that. Like, I look like what in my picture. So it wasn't like, hey, I'm just not figuring out. And this wasn't your first time seeing me. And it was just one of those things where it's like, we ain't never gonna be able to get it together because he can't wrap his mind around that I want him. Where and then I was just like, he was like, I like my electronics and my toys and stuff like that. And I said, but if you got somebody who making just because he made more money than me, and I was like, but still, look at how much more you could have. And it was just like, I guess I could have more because you got somebody else to help with all that, but clearly it wasn't that because I was just too pretty and just too smart. But I remember he told me when I first met, he said people always settled there and said that he was an asshole and he was conceited. Now, what I thought of that conceited, as I say, sometimes you have your idea of what conceited is
It
or what
means
these terms based off of somebody else who you done dealt with, but it can come in different type of ways. But it's just
you got a
like,
big ego. And so not the kind Beyonce. I mean, he might have had the kind Beyonce was talking about, but but conceited in a way that when he said he was conceited, it was probably more about his ego. Like, you think this way
ooh,
about yourself, and now you're presented with this person who makes you feel less than, and
Yes.
that's an interesting concept, and maybe it's not the person, like
And that
maybe
was the
this
first
guy.
time I ever came in contact with that. I have came in
Yeah.
contact with it on several different accounts, whether it's based off of what I look like, but definitely education.
And that is
Definitely
so
education.
interesting because, like, again, like that guy, he said, you're not gonna beat me up with your education. And what? With your degrees is what he said. I'm like, but I didn't. I said nothing about it. And then again, the conversation was just in and out with. It was an interesting conversation. It was a good conversation at some points, and then he would say it was
It was
anyway.
weird at best.
I think what we learned through all of these things. For me, I was just saying, you too, maybe, that providing is not just financial. And so I do know that I need someone who will not just, yes, honey, you have to be able to contribute more than light bill. I'm stuck on that because that is wild. You don't
Especially
have to
for
be able
a
to contribute more than
billionaire
a
to
light bill. But
say
yes, I
such
do
a
want
thing.
to be with someone who is going to provide emotional support for me and be emotionally intelligent. Someone who's going to provide safety. Like, if I can't feel safe with you, I'm good. I have a dog and I have an alarm system, and I'll be working on a gun real soon. So I could
Girl,
feel
get this.
safe without you. And I mean, it's a different type of safety, but it's like, if I can't feel safe with you, I'd rather just do it on my own. And I think that is what a lot of people are upset about when it comes to Black women. Because, first of all, and this is, getting to the end of wrapping everything up, but when we talk about this, Black women corner the market on holding someone down.
Ain't
We
nobody
corner
go
the
hold you
market
down like
of building
anybody
people up,
else.
building men up. That is not a new concept, but what has happened is we've seen our mothers and our grandmothers do it, and it don't work out in their favor. We've
Hmm.
also been in relationships where the person say banking on potential is a bad idea. It starts the relationship at a bad place because we've vested in these relationships that did not give us anything in return. And there's some people
Hmm.
who do, but we're talking about the bigger picture of Black women, as a whole. We're not speaking for every situation. So to even have these conversations about Black women holding Black men down is just weird to me. That is such a weird conversation because so many Black women still to this day, and I'm not saying Ray. I'm talking about good Black men who are being held down by their good Black women. Why are we still trying to tell Black women that they need to get rid of your list, child? Let him just be paying the
Because you
light bill.
see a lot
Just
of
be happy what you get.
yes, because one thing is statistically, regardless of whether we see in movies, videos, commercials, or whatever, still there is over 90% of Black men that still choose Black women when they become married, and we
Exactly.
choose them. There's not a lot of interracial um, marrying within African Americans. It's just not statistically. It's just not that. But we see you and I both. We know people, some of the same people, and other people outside where those there are still some young brothers that take care of house and home, and they are stand-up people in their communities, and they're great fathers to their children, and even fathers, godfathers to
To others,
other
yes.
that's out there, and they try to do any and everything, although those, just like with us, the great examples, which majority of us are, that's not what they show. Even though we're disproportionately Black men are in the prison system, there's only like a little over a million people incarcerated in general. It's 37, I mean 13% of us. So in the US population, all of us is not locked up. A lot of us, they are going to school, they are getting gainfully employed, they are at, because like my son, he goes to a trade school here. He's just started 3 weeks in taking welding, and there's a lot of different degrees that's there on that campus, and you go and you see lots of young Black boys, and they're coming from all over. And that is like, okay, 4 year school may not be for me, but will I be able to make good money? Will I be able to buy a house? Be able to have a wife, take care of my children, get my children educated, and be able to help other people with this absolutely hands down without any type of problem whatsoever. But they're not going to highlight that. But to basically, it is just like we of all females on the planet do not ask for nothing else other than just to have a man that
Whatever you
wants
got to
you.
offer, like we paupers. Whatever you have, sir. I just get a morsel. Can I just
And
get a
and and
morsel
that's
of your
and
love?
that's not right,
A
because
morsel of your protection?
you see too often where we as Black women, we are end up victimized and become victims of times when we have rejected, men of any sort, where it's like, I don't want your advances. No, just because you like me, that don't mean that I gotta like you back. And it has proven to be at our dismay. And so, but still, out of safety, that's granted, that does happen, but that ain't saying that it happen all of the time. You still stand your ground and stuff. But it's like we have become the women that we are, the stand up, the pillars in our own community, which we already have. But as I say, even at other different levels, out of pure sheer necessity. As we said when we talked a little over a month ago with Pastor John Stewart, commit to submit. When it's talk about the virtuous woman, she had help, but guess what? She was able to just have it all laid out. But as I said, that's part of what that man's supposed to, you end up with him. He's supposed to elevate you. As I say, he got the kingdom. Once you get with him, automatically you the queen and you got the keys to the kingdom as well too. But it's like, if it's the other way around, what was you trying to do? Continue to be the court jester? Like, what was you doing? What was your plan? Like, you got to have a plan, not just like, oh well, I was just gonna lay up and I would just go. And then people that do have an issue in a problem, I've had more people fall out with me because I wouldn't give them a key to my house. Why I'm finna give you a key to my house? Can I have
That's
a key? A
why.
key to your house? Oh, you ain't got one. So guess what? This ain't gonna finna be mutual. Like you, oh, you just want to do something. Yes, I want to walk into my house with whoever I left in there, which was
Right.
nobody. I had to struggle pay. Like, do you think I wanted to study all those hours? Do you think I didn't want to be at every party, kicking it, or be involved in more stuff? It's kind of like I make the sacrifices to have what I have, but what sacrifices have you had? And everybody just don't want to just pick people up.
And at the end of the day, you have the choice.
True.
And for what we have been saying throughout the podcast is that people, specifically Black women, because
Yes.
again, y'all know who y'all are, keep trying to tell Black women that you can't choose. That is the
We can't.
problem.
We have
Period.
choices.
Stop
We
telling
want to
Black women
choose.
you get you a man who just paid a light bill. Well, you ain't be able to get a man who have $100,000. You're not gonna be able to find you a man who don't have no kids. You whatever's on my list, let it be on my list. And if it takes me till I'm 60 to find it, then so be it. I don't need your advice, and I also don't need you to tell me what I feel is important for me. Whether it's my needs
Mm.
or my wants. It's just interesting that humbling. I heard somebody describe it as that humbling of the Black woman. Like, why y'all want to humble us so bad? This
But
wild.
it's like,
Wild.
okay, that means I have to dummy down, and I can't celebrate me and my educational accomplishments. I can't, like, right now I'm on a professional advancement ladder system. So like I shouldn't be happy that I'm on that track.
And you can't expect to have a mate that's like that either. Why can't even if
Exactly.
that's not how it ends up, why can't you want it? That is, and I think that is the problem. Like, why can't we want it? It may
When
not
at
happen like
one
that.
point
I
we
may
didn't
meet
even.
someone who I fall in love with. He might spit some real good game and then a whole different package, whole different tax bracket that I wasn't expecting. However, why is it you're telling me that I can't want the man who $100,000. I can't want the man who's gonna do certain, like that's the part that grinds my gears.
And I do
That grinds
understand,
my gear every time.
and
Like,
I
no, you
do,
can't have that.
yeah, and one of the phrases and stuff, and it's sometimes you have to think about essay in context and stuff, because as Kara and Dooney Addict said, choices and ego, those are, crazy different things. And I know one of our late bishops, he said, well, if you make 60 and the other person makes 40, together you make
There
100.
we go.
And it was like, but you by yourself can't make that much. But guess what? 40 and 60 ain't that far away from each
There's
other.
different between you bringing in 10
Exactly.
and
Because
10 in today's economy. You ain't going
nothing.
to work much.
Shoot, I might be making 10, just just and see, this is the crazy thing where it's like, and I know that they say it's a double standard, but to a certain extent, yeah, because it's kind of like a man can meet a broke woman and then they can want to be with them, because a lot of times men, they basing it off of their face and all this other kind of stuff in the body and whatnot. But
But I
as with,
told you that man on his profile said, "Can y'all not be so broke?" He
yeah,
don't want a woman who is that broke, so broke. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to qualify that number for
but
this
basically, like, all
particular.
you doing is just swimming around, you looking for somebody like that. And I know
And
that
he's fine. Again, he can have his choice. The issue
exactly.
is y'all don't want us to have the choice. I can
And,
have a
and
choice
I
of what I
think
want.
that's something else with like the passport bros. They go abroad, but you are going to third world countries to
Listen, I think
people
I said this to you before. It
who
was, I don't know where they were. I think it was in Middle Eastern because they were like out anyway. It
yeah.
was a white man. And I think he considered himself a passport bro. And he went out, and so the lady who's the matchmaker was like this, and that. So the certain expectations, the women are going to expect you to do this, and this, and you're going to need to have this. And he was like, why do I have to all of? He was like, you do realize these women expect you to still take care of them. You cannot come here without anything. Yes, they have this expectation. And I think that's so interesting. You went to a whole nother country, got a matchmaker in a whole nother country, and thought that you could just pick up someone in that regard. It was, oh, let me just, that's very predatory. You going to another country to be like, oh, let me just help this lady out of her situation. She'll be happy with whatever I give her.
Exactly.
Crazy.
And it basically it's just like, I really just came over here for a sex slave for the most part. Where it's like she should just be happy that she ain't over here in her country anymore and that she's gonna be living in my house. I'm not gonna be expecting her to pay for anything or whatever. And basically you're gonna just look good
Leave her with
and
her
stuff.
people. Leave her with her
Exactly.
people.
Leave her alone, because
And
guess what? They
leave
go get
us
that get
alone.
that citizenship, and then they ain't as dumb as you think. A lot of them see some of these people, they gonna start, you gonna start seeing, you might not be looking for it, they gonna tell their story like, guess what, how they took half of everything I had, or even more, because guess what, in our honesty, they will get alimony because you put them in a lifestyle which they didn't have. And guess what, they're probably gonna even have to, you probably even gonna have to pay more. Guess
Yeah.
what? They can go back home, get them another husband. They ain't even got to have it on paper over here. And guess what? And they'll be living good off of your money. Or they can go
Yeah.
back home and live like kings and queens over there. So,
And my question is again, because we're talking about Black women in America, if you can go to other countries, because not any country you go to, there's going, even in America, women has a level of expectation to be taken care of in some regard, whatever that looks like for them.
mhm.
Why is it that you are okay, going outside of the US, to find a woman who's going to have an expectation that you're paying for them? Like, I have a friend went out of the country talking about all the stuff he did. Oh, we went and partied, this, and that. Went by himself, had a wonderful time. And I said, did you spend your money on everything? He said, yes. Why wouldn't you do that here? Would you do that here for another woman and not feel like she was being a gold digger? He was like, yeah, like, what's the difference? So you go to another country, have a good time, go out, take her out every night, all these other, and now, yes, you're on vacation, but still, you can do that on a weekend. You can do that just one night, but you did that every
Mhm.
night you were out. Like, the mindset is just, um,
Yes.
It's
Brody,
just
he said, sound like
wild.
y'all talking about black men in America. Yes, this is specifically talking more or less about African American black men, black women, because the same rules do not apply in expectation to our black brothers and sisters from the Caribbean or from the continent of Africa,
And
just
we
due
tired
to
of
their
people telling us
culturally.
that we need to settle. Stop telling black
Yeah.
women you need to settle for whatever it is you want. And again, settling is your definition of settling.
Well, why
Settling
can't
is
I
what
settle for what I want? And if where I settle it kind of high up on the mountaintop, well then
exactly, and
let
that's
me up
that's the
there.
whole point. That is the whole point. Like settling is your definition of what it is you want.
Kara
So if
said,
I'm going against things that is important to me, whether it's $100,000, salary, or someone who is contributing or who's ambitious or whatever, that's still my choice. Just stop telling black women that no, you can't have that. Nope.
yes.
Nope.
Kara said in the comments that, but when we settle for someone on our level, then some men feel threatened by that when you start to advance.
Higher than them.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I seen this thing. It was one of those little shorts where it said, like the girl said, oh, you think I glowed up about stuff once I stopped dating you. And it was like, no, I didn't. Say I still had these things and I wanted to do them with you, but now I don't have to compete with you just trying to shut down everything that I did that I have, or every way that I have said this could be a way that we can get that, where it's just like you ain't cut out forged no path, you ain't moving towards anything. It was like now I don't have to consult anybody, so now I can just go from point A to point B, and that take me from one level to another level. Is, as I say, in your eyes it seemed like I bossed up and I wanted to do all these things. Like, no, I wanted to do every last one of these things with you, because I think in our nature as Black women, we do want to do these things with our counterparts, with our men. We want to find somebody where it's just like, man, I want to be exhausted because we was up all night trying to get a business plan, write a business plan. If not, researching stuff like, okay, how we go get this business and all this other different type of stuff. And I think sometimes let's just let's just take it a step back. How many people are able to, Black women, sometimes even within your own family, you're able to really start a business with someone else in your family that's a female, versus you got men in your family. And where it's like sometimes, like, I was wanting to let's do this, and this is a family affair, so we can keep all of the money inside and stuff like that. Well, the first things are, well, I ain't got this and I ain't got, we ain't even talking about that. We ain't even put paper to pencil. We don't even know what we want to sell. It's like I just want to make money with my family. So sometimes those things can just prove to be very, very difficult. It can be.
Yeah.
So
I think it boils down to, I keep saying this, so obviously it's what I think, but it boils down to choices.
yes.
Let Black women choose. Stop telling
Mm-hmm.
us what we can't have. Stop telling us take the man who he could pay the light bill. Even in Yana Van's eye, although I knew where she was coming from, she was saying it in response to the reporter who's saying she wanted someone who uh, kind of was her equal. And so
Mm-hmm.
Yana Van then, I guess, when asked about it, she's like, "Oh, you should be able to be with a bus driver. If that lady don't want that, shut up." That's my point. And nothing's wrong with a bus driver. Bus drivers make good money. They can care for their children. They can do a lot of great things, but that is also not the person that this woman at this time wants. And
And
I'm
it
just
was
tired.
different generational gap. And I think they took that little sound bite and then they took off and they ran with it. And then when you see their really breakdown in response, it was like, guess what? For the most part, the professional bus driver came up, but really and truthfully, it still equated to the same. Like, I want somebody who is able to take care of me. I
Yeah,
want
that's
somebody who
that's
is
the
my
bottom
equal.
line. And but even for her saying that it, she wants a person as her equal, whatever that means for her.
Yeah.
Let Black women live. Let us say what our price is, honey. If your price to date is a Birkin, So be it.
Yep.
So say
Absolutely.
you. I mean, it ain't mine. I wish it was kind of, but that's kind of stuff don't matter to me, right? But
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. It's just please stop. Please stop. When
Yeah.
you mentioned we are not pilgrims for the title, I was like, oh, that's perfect. We are not pilgrims. You do not have to settle for whatever people want to give you, the scraps, the little bits.
And settle
Even,
on
even if
barren
someone is
land.
not offering you scraps, if they're offering you something that you do not want, you do not have to have it. It still can be considered settling. There's a lot of women in general that will settle on a mate that makes sense because you look
Mm-hmm.
good on paper.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
But how you make me feel is very different. Can think about living my life, my full life with you? The answer for some is no. They go in with the idea like, I mean, if it gets too bad, I could divorce. What?
Mm-hmm.
But so settling doesn't just mean everything is to shit. It could be great
True.
on paper. Everybody else thinks like, oh, you hit a lick, whatever that's supposed to mean to you. But
Right.
in reality, it may not be that. So, Black
Yes.
women don't settle for less than whatever it is you want. And if you change your standards over time, you make compromises, fine. But you don't have to take in what other people are putting in for you, what they're projecting, because that's how I see it. You're projecting yourself, your desires, or your experience off on others.
Absolutely, absolutely. We want good, healthy relationships, and we got to think about a lot of these long-term relationships. Children is going to come out of them. Even if you come in with your own kids, they're still looking and seeing what's going on. And then that's going to affect how else they are. Because most men, they want the best for their daughters. But then guess what? You want their mama to do like I don't understand. Like you wanted the mama to accept the barren land, but then you want your your child to have a feel with flourishing and stuff. So one got to go with the other, and it's like, is the light bill your foundation, or is that the entire house? That's what it is. Foundation or the entire house. Everybody got to start out. It's just like tithing. 10% is the minimum requirement, but God don't say don't just do that. But guess what? What I want is more than your 10%. I'm gonna let God deal with the rest of it. God can take small things and flourish it. I don't have that capability all the time.
Well, thank you, Carl. Carl said this has been a great topic. Thank
Yes,
you. I
absolutely.
think we could go on and on and on, especially because we have so many personal experience about it. I think this will be a great topic to revisit, maybe with a male or just someone else, to revisit
Yes.
this topic in a different way. But we definitely thank you guys for joining us um, today. So next
Yeah.
we're going to our celebrations, honey. It is September and we are celebrating birthdays. Um, any birthdays that you have, Renee?
I do. One is Tara from Tara Tate Designs. We have had her make us coffee mugs and water bottle carry what it is, little things and stuff for us. We want to wish her a happy birthday because her birthday
Yes.
is coming up next week, as well as her sister Yetta. She has been a contributor before in the comment section, and their brother. DJ. So all three of them, we know what their mom and daddy was doing every year around the same time because they all
Something
born
special was
within.
going on.
They were not on the same day, but they
Nah, I
only
must be
had one
close.
birthday party growing up, and that was for all of them because all of them is born within a week of each other. So those are my three. Anybody else, I am very sorry. But those are the people who I can think of right now. This
Well, I
birthday
have
coming up.
two birthdays. One for fellow 40 plus already in the 40 group, Stephanie, and then my friend Angel birthday coming up in a couple of days.
Oh
She'll be
yeah.
officially in the 40 spot.
Oh my
She's
God.
39. She right there. So
I
she is
thought
coming
Angel was
on
like grown,
board.
grown, super duper, big
Yes,
time
yes, yes.
grown.
as we say every week, please DM us, send us an email. We love to celebrate not just birthdays. If you have an anniversary, you have a new business, someone going to school, someone graduating from school, let us know. We want to celebrate. And you don't have to be a 40-year-old celebrating. We love to celebrate everyone, just to celebrate life. So let us know. You can email the40spot@gmail.com. Again, the40spot@gmail.com, or you can DM us at the 40 spot on all social media. And again, that's the40 spot on all social media. Let us celebrate life with you.
Absolutely. Like, comment, subscribe, share the podcast. If you're listening where you listen to your spot, your podcast, please rate us so we could just pop up when they put in the 40 spot. Um, Again, like, comment, subscribe, share. If you want to support the podcast, we do have Cash App, $ the 40 spot. If you just feel generous and stuff. And we will see you all next week.
And before we end, I do have one last that came in. Happy 14th anniversary to Anna Smith. Her anniversary, 14 years. Wow.
Ooh,
Baby, y'all doing the dang on
y'all
thing.
done got
So
on
happy anniversary
there.
to y'all. It's coming up. Is it coming
Yeah.
up? Came. Either way, happy
This
anniversary.
month. It's this month for
Yes,
sure.
yes, yes, yes. Well, as we say every week, in closing, if it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. You guys have a wonderful 2 weeks. We will see you again. Bye.